A lot of people have seen things happen before they happened. In other words, before they happened in the world we live in. People think that things can be seen before they happen in our three-dimensional world. This makes me think that there might be a plan for life on Earth that exists in another dimension and is slowly coming to life in ours. If the things that were seen didn't happen in this world, they had to have come from somewhere else. From the point of view of someone who lives in a three-dimensional world, everything that can be seen happening here must have already been planned. Can we change what's going to happen? Living in 4 dimensions is the first lesson. I want to show that everyone has promise and that we can create our own future. When we make a choice, our future goes in a certain direction from then on. A future that fits with the changes we've made. We can be very flexible about what the future holds for people. How he acts doesn't have as much of an effect as how he thinks. The way a person sees himself is the basis for everything. There are no other things that affect his deeds or experiences besides how he sees himself. His behaviors would be different if he had a different view of himself. Shifting how someone thinks about themselves has a direct effect on their future, and so does shifting how they think about themselves in the future. It's possible for assumptions that don't seem important to have big effects. We need to think again about what we think about beliefs and recognize that they can lead to change. Within the world of awareness, every change takes place. Even if everything is carefully planned, the future could go in many different directions. In our lives, we are always having to choose which road to go down. There are 2 different ways that everyone sees the world. One is based on nature, and the other is based on spirituality. To tell them apart, we can think of everyday awareness as being shaped by our senses and focused thought as being shaped by our wants. The only thing that exists in reality is right now. Without any extraneous information, the past and future only live in our minds. The spiritual view, on the other hand, sees what time is made of. People think of events as different things, like items in space. From a spiritual point of view, the present is made up of both the past and the future. The spiritual man and the natural man have different ways of understanding things. We can't see what's really there because our vision is limited. It helps to regularly take our thoughts off of sense information and focus on an invisible state if we want to learn how to see things that can't be seen. We can make it feel as real as our surroundings by feeling and sensing it in our minds. Other things become less important when you focus on something deeply. Just keep our attention on the place we want to reach, and we'll can see it. We can develop a spiritual view that lets us see things that aren't there by shifting our attention from the visible world to the unknown. We can learn to use the power of our mind to make our futures look the way we want them to, with practice. It is important to understand the desire that drives action. Without the drive to move, we can't do anything. No matter what we do, we always chase the hunger that is currently running through our minds. When our desire to quit is stronger than our desire to keep going, breaking a habit becomes more appealing. The things that catch our attention are the ones that make us want to act. When we realize that our lives are missing something that would make us happier and more fulfilled, we have a desire for it. One of the main reasons people want something is to get something for themselves. The stronger the desire, the bigger the expected gain. Each and every wish is selfish by nature. If there is no possible gain, there is no reason to act, so there is no action. The natural man and the spiritual man talk to each other through the language of desire. Life's lessons must be understood and followed if we want to grow as people and reach our goals. Following its advice without question is a quick acceptance of what you want to happen. Pascal said that if you want something, you can get it. You have already found something if you are looking for it. Being sure that your wish has come true and living and acting in line with that belief can change the future to match your belief. Assumptions bring what they prove to life. If someone really thinks their wish has come true, their inner self will naturally find ways to make it happen and figure out what steps need to be taken to make it happen. Making up stories about what it would be like to reach our goals is the best way to figure out how to do it. This idea of cause and effect is very important. When the four-dimensional self looks at things from a bigger picture, it makes the tools it needs to get what it wants. If you don't train your mind, it can be hard to accept a state that goes against your feelings. This method makes it easier to meet people before they happen, so you can imagine things that aren't there yet. An awful lot of people don't realize how important simple ideas really are. However, this exact method for changing the future was only found after many years of research and testing. You need a strong desire, a clear goal, and to know exactly what you want in order to change the future. Next, make up an event that you think will happen when your wish comes true. The event in question should be something you can control and should show that your wish has been granted. First, make yourself comfortable on a bed or chair and act like you're tired to make it easy to understand. Focus on the thing you want to imagine as you close your eyes. Try to picture yourself in the position and doing it right now. You should really be a part of the imagined action instead of just watching from afar. You should try to really feel like you're doing the action so that the imagined feeling feels real. Always remember that what you do should be in line with what you want. Also, get so involved in the action that it seems real and intense. For example, let's say you want to get promoted at work. Confidence building is something that usually happens when you reach your goals. Pick this move to think about and picture. Soothe your body and get into a calm state that's like sleep, but where you can still control your thinking. Keep your mind and body sharp without pressure. Just picture a friend in front of you. Put your hand on his. Start by seeing it as real and physical, then have a made-up conversation that fits with what's happening. Imagine that you are in the present and are being praised for your good luck. Let's instead think about the present and the future. The thing that will happen in the future is now a bigger fact. Surprisingly, this bigger dimension is the same as our normal three-dimensional world. Figuring out the difference between being in the present moment and picturing yourself doing something can make the difference between success and failure. By focusing on a single action and doing it over and over, I've learned how important it is to make the imagined action clearer and easier to understand. We can make it feel real and bring it to life. If we don't, our attention could wander and be drawn to a lot of connected pictures in a very short amount of time. This could take us hundreds of miles away from our goal in terms of distance and years away in terms of time. To do something as specific as climbing a set of stairs, we need to keep our attention on that one thing. That's why we need to keep our minds on climbing the stairs and act as if it were real until it becomes clear and real to us. The idea should be communicated in a way that needs us to do as little as possible. We need to make sure that the mind can easily understand how it would feel if the wish came true. Being a little sleepy can help us concentrate without having to work too hard. As much as we want to, we shouldn't let ourselves fall asleep because it will be hard to stay awake. Instead, it's better to stay slightly sleepy so that we can still control our thinking. When we are calm and at ease, one way to make our dreams come true is to imagine and feel as if they have already been realized. We can say a simple word over and over, like a soothing song, to make it seem like our wish has come true. We can do this with thanks, as if we were thanking a higher power for making it possible. We need to stay busy until we fall asleep, though, if we want to see more of the world. Clear your mind of everything that would happen if you reached your goal, and you will finally experience it exactly as you imagined. Feed your mind premises, which are statements that you believe to be true, because ideas can become facts when you accept them over and over again, and they start to feel real. Any method that helps an idea come true is seen as a positive one. It has a huge effect on everyone and guides their words, actions, and moves toward making it happen. It is important to understand the idea of a dimensionally bigger world in order to understand how people shape their futures based on their beliefs. We're going out into this bigger world to change our future. If we see something happen before it does, it means that the event was already planned from our point of view in the three-dimensional world. In other words, we have to change things in the 4 dimensions of space before we can change them in the 3 dimensions. The idea of a world with more dimensions is hard for humans to grasp, and they would probably reject the idea of a self that lives in such a world. They comprehend the 3 measurements of length, width, and height very well. They think that if there was a 4th dimension, they would be able to see it just like the other 3. A dimension isn't just a line. It includes many different ways to measure an item that are all separate from each other. Not only can we measure a solid in its length, but we can also measure it in any other way. If you want to measure something other than its length, width, and height, what are those measurements? Time measures how long I've been alive. Things can't appear or disappear instantly if you don't use the 3 measurements of length, width, and height. You can easily keep track of when it shows up and when it goes away. It lasts for a certain amount of time. Its lifespan can be found without using complex measures like length, width, and height. Time is definitely a 4th way to measure something. The more qualities something has, the more real and substantial it seems. When you add dimensions to a straight line that only exists in 1 dimension, it takes on form, mass, and substance. With time as the 4th dimension, what new property would it have that would make it so much better than solids, surfaces, and lines? Time is a way for experiences to change, since all changes take time. Being able to change is the new trait. Keep in mind that a solid's cross-section will be a surface if we cut it in half. Cutting a surface in half gives us a line, and cutting a line in half gives us a point. In other words, a point is just a section of a line, which is just a section of a surface, which is just a section of a solid, which is just a section of a 4-dimensional object, and so on. We can't help but think that all 3-dimensional things are actually cross-sections of 4-dimensional bodies. This means that when I meet you, I'm meeting a cross-section of the 4-dimensional you, the true self that can't be seen in 4 dimensions. In order to see the 4-dimensional self, I have to see every part or moment of your life, from birth to death, as happening at the same time. My attention should be on all the different sense impressions you have had on Earth and those you might have in the future. They wouldn't be in the order you experienced them. I would see them as a present whole, since the 4th dimension is all about change. As a live, moving whole, I should perceive them in a state of change. This is all clear in our thoughts, but what does it mean to us in this 3-dimensional world? It means we can see the future and change it as we so choose if we can travel through time. This world, which we perceive to be so real, is actually just a shadow that we can always pass through and beyond. This world is made up of abstractions from worlds that are deeper and have more dimensions. Each abstraction comes from a world that is deeper and has more dimensions, and so on. There is no way to get to the absolute, no matter how many layers we add to the world. Focusing on an unseen state and thinking that he sees and feels it is all it takes to show that there is a world with more dimensions. If he stays focused in this state, his current surroundings will disappear, and he will awaken in a world with more dimensions, where the thing he was thinking about will seem like a real, tangible thing. I have a feeling that if he took his mind off of this infinitely bigger world and went even deeper within himself, he would once again make time seem like it was happening outside of him. It would surprise him to learn that space gets bigger every time he goes into his own mind and makes time appear outside of himself. So, he would come to the conclusion that both time and space are sequential, and that life is just the rising of a block of time with many dimensions. In the long run, how we use this serial universe to change the future is more important than why there is a serial universe in the first place. We only need to worry about 2 worlds in the infinite series if we want to change the future: the world we know because of our organs and the world we see without them. Lesson 2. Presumptions turn into facts. Men believe in the outside world because they don't know how to focus and concentrate their skills to get through its thin shell. The only reason to read this book is to take away the veil of the senses and go to another world. We don't have to work hard to take away the veil of the senses. By focusing on something else, we can erase the objective world. To see the state we want in our minds, all we have to do is focus on it. But in order to make it real, so that it can be proven, we need to keep our attention on the unseen state until it has the same sense of reality as the real thing. Focused attention gives our desire the clarity and weight of truth. At that point, we have given it the right to become a real, visible thing. If it's hard to keep your attention on one thing when you're feeling sleepy, staring at something straight on might help. Do not look at the top of anything. Instead, look into and past anything flat, like a wall, a mat, or anything else with depth. Set it up so that it gives back as little reflection as possible. Then, pretend that at this level, you are seeing and hearing what you want to see and hear until the imagined state takes up all of your attention. You feel as though you have come back from a long way away when you wake up from your controlled waking dream at the end of your meditation. The visible world, which you had blocked out, comes back into your awareness. Its very appearance tells you that you were fooled into thinking that the thing you were thinking about was real. But if you believe that consciousness is the only truth, you will stick to your vision. This will prove that you have the power to make your wishes come true, so they can become real, visible things. Define your ideal and focus on the idea of seeing yourself in that ideal. In your mind, picture how you would feel if you were already the personification of your dream. Then follow through with what you believe. Even though the senses disagree with this idea, it will become true if it is held on to. If you look mentally at the people you will know that you have reached the state of mind you want. When you talk to yourself, you are less shy and more honest than when you talk to other people. So, the chance to analyze yourself comes up when you are surprised by the talks you have with other people in your head. Your connection with the world has changed when you change your idea of who you are, so if you see them the same way you did before, you have not changed your idea of who you are. Allow other people to see you in your meditation as they would see you with this new idea of who you are, a fact. Other people always see you as the ideal person you inspire. So, when you think about other people in meditation, you have to picture yourself as they would see you physically, with your idea of yourself as a fact. This means that when you meditate, you think that they see you being the person you want to be. Your desire is satisfied if you believe that you are what you want to be, and in fulfilling that desire, all wanting is gone. You can't keep wanting things that you already have. You don't have to work hard to get what you want. What you desire is something you already have. It means taking the state of being what you want to be. If, on the other hand, you want other people to be happy, you must imagine them to be that way in meditation. The path from hunger to satisfaction is sped up as you imagine what you would feel like in real life if you were already the embodiment of the ideal you want to be. I said that man has the choice of whether to live in one of several possible worlds at any given time. But that raises the question of how that is possible if man's experiences in the three-dimensional world are planned ahead of time, as his seeing an event happen before it does suggests. You can see that you have the power to change the future if we compare life on Earth to this page. Events on Earth happen to people one after the other, just like the words on this page are happening to you one after the other. Think of each word on this page as a different physical experience. To get the big picture and understand what I mean, you should focus on the first word in the top left corner and then move your attention across the page from left to right, letting each word fall on its own. You understand what I mean by the time you get to the last word on this page. But let's say you look at the page with all the words written on it in the same place and decide to change the order of them. You could tell a whole new story by moving them around. You could actually tell a lot of different stories. We will be able to consciously make things happen in the three-dimensional world once we have learned to control how our mind moves in the four-dimensional world. In waking dreams, where our attention can be kept without effort, we learn how to exercise this control. Paying attention without working hard is necessary to change the future. Although we are awake, we can consciously create an event in our dreams that we want to happen in the real world. The sense feelings that make up our waking dreams are real things that have been moved around in time or space. In order to create the waking dream, we simply pick out the sense impressions that, when put together correctly, suggest that we have achieved our goal. Once we have a clear picture of the dream, we sit back in a chair and put ourselves in a state of mind similar to sleep. This state is close to sleep, but we are still aware of how our attention is moving. Once we reach that state, we perceive in our minds what we would perceive in the real world if this waking dream were a fact. When using this method to change the future, it's important to remember that during a waking dream, the only thing that matters is the waking dream itself, or the action that is planned to make our wish come true. We don't care about how the waking dream turns into a real thing. What matters is that we accept the waking dream as real. Here's what you need to know to change the future, which is really just a managed living dream. Set a clear goal and be sure you know exactly what you want. Imagine something that you think will happen after your desire is met. It should be self-predominant, and it should be an event that means your desire has been met. Stop the body from moving and put the mind into a state similar to sleep, so that you can experience in your mind what you would experience in real life if you were to achieve your goal right now. Mentally, immerse yourself in the proposed action and imagine that you are actually carrying it out right now. Lesson 3. Your creative mind. Some men say that a true opinion must match the outside world it is about. So if I tell myself that I'm free while I'm imprisoned and succeed in believing it, then I really do believe that I'm free. So just because I believe I am free doesn't mean I really am. But because of what I've been through, I believe in so many strange things that I don't see much reason to doubt the truth of things I haven't experienced. People ask us to ignore what our senses tell us and believe that which sets our friend free is true. To know our neighbor's truth, we must trust that he is already what he wants to be. Any idea we have about someone that doesn't give them what they want won't set them free, so it can't be true. Instead of learning my skill in schools where taking classes and workshops is seen as an alternative to learning on your own, I spent most of my time in school learning how to use my imagination. As the hours went by, I imagined myself to be different from what my mind and senses told me I was. I did this until the imagined states were as real as the real ones, so real that people walking by became characters in my mind and behaved the way I wanted them to. My dream became theirs through the power of thought. It controlled how they behaved and what they talked about while I was in my imagined state. It seems like when I meditate, my mind becomes so bright that it can draw anything I want to it. Imagination shapes life around me as I shape it within myself through desire. First, I think that I want to see a certain person or scene. Then I look as if I was seeing that which I want to see, and the imagined state becomes real. I want to hear, I say, and then I listen as if I were listening. The imagined voice then says what I say, as if it had started the message. I could give you many cases to back up my points and show that these imagined states do become real. But I know that my examples will make people who haven't seen anything like them or who don't agree with my points of view very skeptical. Because while I was meditating deeply, I called things that couldn't be seen as if they were. And what couldn't be seen not only became visible, but it also became real. We can change the future to match our desires if we first wish for them and then imagine that they are happening. Let's do what the prophet said, though. Think only of what is beautiful and good. It doesn't matter what our nature is like. The mind waits for us just as quickly and without any care. Both good and bad come from us. In stories, desire and fantasy are like a witch's wand. They bring together people who are similar to them. They come out most easily when the mind is calm, like when you're sleeping. I've written about my method for entering the dimensionally larger world with so much care and detail, but I'll give you one more rule for doing the same. When we dream, our vision is more like a helper than a boss. But a dream's inner fantasy can become a real thing in the outside world. We exit this world into a world with more dimensions when we dream, just as when we meditate. Psychologists today think that dreams are made up of flat, two-dimensional pictures, but I know that's not how they are. They are real things in the world with more dimensions, and I can hold on to them. I've learned that if I dream unexpectedly, I can hold on to any inanimate or fixed part of the dream, like a chair, a table, a staircase, or a tree, and tell it to wake up while still firmly hanging on to the dream object. I feel like I'm waking up from a dream as I'm pulled through myself. The next thing I know, I'm holding the object of my dream, and I'm no longer the worker of my vision. I am now its master, because I am fully aware of and in charge of how my mind moves. People who are fully aware and in charge of their thoughts are the ones who can call things that they can't see as if they were. We bring things into being by hoping for them and imagining that our wish has come true. There is a delay between our assumption and its completion in the world of 3 dimensions. However, our assumption is immediately realized in the world of 4 dimensions. Whatever we think about reality immediately matches our belief. You don't have to wait months for the yield here. We look again as if we had seen, and sure enough, the fields are already white and ready to be fished. You won't have to fight in this world with more dimensions. Hold your ground and look around to see how the Lord will save you. 2 Chronicles 20:17. And because that bigger world is slowly moving through our 3-dimensional world, our imaginations give us the power to change our world to fit our needs. Your ideas will become facts if you look as if you saw, listen as if you heard, and reach out your imagined hand as if you touched. This will be silly and hard to understand for people who think that a true opinion must match the outside world it refers to. But I teach and do the work of fixing in people's minds what they want to achieve. From my own experience, I know that set mental attitudes which don't match up with the outside world they're about, and are therefore called imagined, things that aren't real, will still destroy things that are real. Look back at the good goals that people made at the start of many past New Years. They were alive for a short time and then died. Why? Since they were cut off from their root. Think of yourself as the person you want to be. In your mind, feel what you would feel in real life if you were already what you want to be. Stick to your assumption so that you can describe yourself as what you thought you were. Lesson 4. Change how you think about yourself. The goal we strive for and serve could never come from us if it wasn't already a part of who we are. Now I want to tell you again about an event I wrote about 2 years ago and stress how important it was. These quotes from The Search, I think, will help us understand how the law of awareness works and show us that the only person we can change is ourselves. When I was at sea and had some free time, I thought about the perfect state and imagined what I would be if I had 2 clean eyes that could see evil, if everything were pure in my eyes, and if I were without sin. As I got lost in this fiery thinking, I felt like I was raised above the dark world of my senses. It was so strong that I thought I was a being of fire, living in a body of air. The voices were singing, "He is risen, he is risen," as if they came from a holy chorus of people who had beaten death. I knew deep down that they meant me. After that, it looked like I was walking at night. I continued on and came across a scene that looked like the old pool of Bethesda. There were a lot of weak people lying there, blind, unable to move, and waiting for me rather than the water to move, as is customary. As I got closer, they were shaped one after the other, without any thought or effort on my part, by the magician of the beautiful eyes, hands, and feet. All missing members were drawn from me unseen reservoir and formed in harmony with that perfection I felt springing within me. The group praised, "It is finished," when everything was just right, so I woke up. My deep thoughts on the idea of perfection always lead to union with the state I'm thinking about, so I know that the vision was the result of those meditations. I was so caught up in the idea that for a moment I had become what I was thinking about. The high cause I had identified myself with at that moment brought high things to me and made the vision fit within my nature. When we associate ideas with each other, they can make us feel 1,000 different emotions and build a drama that fits with the main idea. My spiritual experiences have made me sure that the only way to achieve the ideal we seek on the outside is to change ourselves. In God's business, there is no loss. In order to lose something, it has to fall from the area where it normally lives. Death does not change anything, and whether we are here or there, the world around us is shaped by how strongly we imagine and feel things. Our ideas about ourselves also shape our lives and make them brighter or darker. Our idea of ourselves, especially our idea of the dimensionally great one within us, is the most important thing to us. Whoever helps or hurts us, whether they know it or not, is working for the rule that makes the outside world fit with who we are on the inside. How we see ourselves is what either frees or limits us. It may use material things to get what it wants, but because life shapes the outside world to reflect how our thoughts are set up on the inside, the only way to get the perfect outside world we want is to change ourselves. Without help, there is none. The hills that we look up to are in an inner range. Because of this, we must look to our own mind as the only truth, the only base from which all things can be explained. It is completely reasonable to believe that this rule will only give us what is natural for us. It goes against the way things are meant to be to try to change the world before we change how we see ourselves. Before the outside can change, the inside has to change first. So without, as within. I'm not preaching philosophical indifference when I say that we should live in a great mental environment and picture ourselves as already being what we want to be, instead of using physical means and reasons to make the change we want. If we don't change our awareness along with what we do, everything we do is just moving things around. We can only get what our ideas tell us, no matter how hard we work. To protest against anything that happens to us is to protest against the law that makes us who we are, and the fact that we are in charge of our own lives. The things that have happened in my life are too closely linked to how I see myself for them, not to have been created by my spirit from a so much bigger part of myself. These events should not hurt me. Instead, I should look within to find the cause. Because I am moved around and made to live in a world that fits with how I see myself. When we meditate deeply, we become one with the state we are thinking about. During this union,